Hello, my name's Winford Dorr. I've been working for a number of years now at understanding how the brain wires up the skills that we have. And one of the questions that we keep on being asked is, why am I good at some things and not at others? Why am I a natural at doing some types of skill and I'm not a natural? In fact, I might even be clumsy at doing others. Well, the answer is in the speed of processing of that type of skill. So the speed of processing of any skill in the brain is itself determined by where in the brain the processing is happening. So if we do something completely automatically, so we don't have to think about it, then that processing is actually effectively instant. And that skill is also remarkably consistently carried out. And in a sense, I'm in the zone when I'm using it. So what is it that causes the variations in our speed of processing? All of our skills, whether it's our balance and coordination we have, our sporting skills, or whether it's our visual processing skills, what do I take in, how good am I at spatial awareness and so on, my listening skills, how good am I at concentrating and taking things in, my speaking skills, am I any good with getting my thoughts out, or am I slow or do I even stutter, or am I good on stage or not when I'm speaking to the public, my social skills, how well do I develop friends? My emotional skills. These are all, in fact, processes. And the brain has made huge numbers of decisions in those processes when we are carrying them out. And it does so without thinking about it in the main. So, for instance, when I'm riding a bike, I don't have to think about turning the pedals. I just do it. I don't think about how far I'm going to lean over into the bend. In fact, I couldn't even work out how far I needed to lean over. If I needed to, I couldn't do it. I wouldn't know where to start. Some mathematicians, I'm sure, can. So the brain is actually able to carry out all sorts of calculations to give us skills, even though we ourselves have never worked out how to do those calculations. So when I'm using the kind of skill that's automatic, that's hardwired, that's effortless, that I don't have to think about, it's because the skill development center of the brain has created a program. So that's the way it is for all of the countless skills that we've developed. Because in our brain, it is a skill development area. It's at the back here. And it's rather like a computer programmer. And it develops those skills based upon all of that we've learned and all of our attempts. And there are different areas for different types of skill. So for instance, there's an area that deals with my balance and coordination. It hardwires or it creates a computer coding of anything I need to do with balance. If that area itself is highly developed, in other words, if it's coded it well, then that type of skill I will probably be a natural at. So if the areas that develop sound and rhythm processing are good at their job, I stand a good chance of being a natural at music and dancing because very good programs are being developed that automatically look after that type of skill for me without me having to think about it. So if I dance automatically and accurately, then I won't even get mentally tired. In fact, my processing is so fast, I'm not even aware that I'm actually processing. I'm in the zone. Whereas maybe my golfing skills, especially my putting, I'm not a natural at. And that's because the skill processing for that area has not been developed as much, and therefore I'm still having to think about it. And that's the critical difference. Fully developed skills, natural skills, are stored in our long-term memory, and things processed there are about 40,000 times faster than those skills that we're not natural at, and we still have to think about them. So things processed in the thinking part of the brain, they're not automatic, they're much, much slower, and they're much less accurate than the fully developed skills that are in my long-term memory. So that's the difference. The skills are natural at, processed in long-term memory, we're processing them extremely fast. Non-natural skills, they're not so fully developed, they're processed in our working memory or our thinking brain, where the processing by comparison is at a snail's pace, and that makes all the difference to us. It's actually more complex than that, of course, because when we're at our best, we are most relaxed, and being relaxed is a mental state. We're relaxed when our thinking brain has got little going on in it. Some call this mindfulness, and others in fact do meditation to try and create that state. But it means that whatever processing we are doing at any moment requires little, if any, of our thinking brain. Now, our thinking brain is where we think about things. We plan there, we recall events and pictures and facts there, we make decisions there. But it's also the place that we have to process any skills that we are using at that moment for which our skill development centre hasn't yet created a program for. In other words, it's still not fully learnt. I'm not a natural. And if it's having to be processed there, it's not going to be instant, it's not going to be effortless, it's not going to be consistent. So the normal process that we go through when we acquire skills is that as we're growing up and learning, it happens automatically. We try something, we learn it, it gets more and more automatic, and finally we've got it. We're a natural. But somehow our brains are all created different, and we develop characteristics that are caused by how good our skill development centre is at creating a certain type of skill. So, for instance, if someone describes you as shy or useless at golf, they generally regard that as a permanent situation. It isn't likely to change. Why is that? Because up until now, it's been really hard to change the characteristics of our skill development centre, which makes those fundamental decisions for us. So, if that's the case, those skills will never become natural because you'll always have to think about them when you do them, and your processing then is slow. Because of that, your thinking brain is processing stuff it really shouldn't have to. And the more that's happening in the thinking brain, then the less relaxed you'll be. Is this making sense? So when you're using skills you're not a natural at, not only are those skills less precise because the processing is far slower, it also makes you more uptight or less relaxed. Obviously, the more you have happening in your thinking brain, the closer you get to being in mental overload or stress. So, is there anything that can be done about this? Well, that's where ZingUp comes in. ZingUp does an audit on the skill programming area of the brain and determines which types of skill could be developed better. It then creates a personalised set of physical activities that provide sensory stimulation to this part of the brain and develops it, makes it more robust, makes the density of grey matter greater. It only takes 5 minutes a day, and typically people do it for 6 months. And these activities that are given to you, they're designed to increase the competence of your skill programming area. So that sounds pretty good, but there's actually more news, more great news, because all of those skills that you've never been a natural at, the brain has in fact kept a memory, a log of what you have learned, all the practices you've had in those skills that you've never made natural yet. And when you've done the development that ZingUp gives you in your skill development area, it can use all of that practice, all of those attempts, all of that learning, all of that coaching you've had, and turn it into a fully coded program, which in future will be processed in the super fast long-term area rather than where it had to be processed before in your thinking brain. So that means in future that type of skill won't be filling up your working memory or thinking brain with stuff that needn't be there. That's a double whammy. So you've got far more skills that you are a natural at, far more thinking brain or working memory space, so you're more relaxed, less stressed, and your processing speeds have increased. Many athletes have found that their main weakness is not the physical side of their game. It's actually that their processing speed is impaired. Their ability to be consistent in certain types of speed is impaired. Well, hope you know now what to do, and go and have a look at the ZingUp website. It might just answer some of the issues that you've had for many years. All the best.